After 7 years of dating, my fiancé, Ethan, finally agreed to give me the grand wedding of my dreams. He even managed to book Susan, Taylor Swift's personal celebrity stylist, for my big day. But on the morning of the wedding, Susan called me directly, her voice dripping with apology. "I'm so sorry, Pearl. Mr. Vance called and told me to style Miss Lily Miller first." My blood ran cold. I immediately called Ethan, demanding to know what the hell was going on. But his voice on the other end was completely dismissive. "Lily just won the National Contemporary Dance Championship, Pearl. Her award ceremony is today. She needs to look absolutely perfect for the cameras. Besides, we've been together for 7 years. The wedding is just a formality, anyway." I stared into space. The wedding I had anticipated, planned, and practically begged for over the last 7 years was nothing but an unimportant formality to him. Seeing my silence on the phone, Ethan tried to soothe me in his usual placating tone. "How about this? I'll call another agency and have them send a backup stylist to your place right now, okay?" I forced down the rising panic and anger in my chest. "The ceremony starts in less than 2 hours, Ethan. How is anyone going to make it here on time through the morning traffic?" Ethan sighed. "Can't you just do your own makeup? You're great at it. And honestly, baby, you're the most beautiful girl in the world to me, even without any makeup. Look, I've got to handle a few things here before the groomsmen arrive. I have to hang up." The line went dead. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. My chest felt so tight I could barely breathe. 7 years of love. 7 years of devotion. And this was what it was worth. Was this wedding even worth saving? My two bridesmaids, Chloe and Serena, had heard the entire conversation. They looked at each other, stunned. Chloe, always the fiery one, slammed down the rehearsal itinerary she had been studying all night. She exploded first. "What the hell is wrong with Ethan? Does he not know that the bride is the center of the universe on her wedding day? And more importantly, even if he made the call, you paid the $100,000 deposit for Susan. Why on earth should that gold-digging bitch get to use her? If you ask me, Lily behaves more like his damn bride than you do." Serena, always the gentle peacemaker, pulled Chloe's sleeve. "Chloe, stop. That's not helping. Right now, we need to find a solution." My mom, who had been smiling all morning, lost her cheerful glow. Her face hardened, but she held my hand gently. "Don't panic, Pearl," Mom said decisively. "I'll call Susan myself. I'll demand she get over here right this second." I stared out the window at the dark, pre-dawn sky, nodding numbly. A sudden, sickening realization hit me. Yesterday, Ethan, who had barely lifted a finger for any of the wedding planning, had suddenly asked me if Susan was really that good of a stylist. At the time, I thought he was just being sweet, finally showing some interest in my happiness. I had proudly bragged to him. "Of course she is. Just wait until you see me tomorrow. I'm going to take your breath away." What a joke. He wasn't asking for me. He was asking for his precious childhood best friend, Lily. My mom's phone rang for a long time before someone finally picked up. But it wasn't Susan. It was Lily's mother, Mrs. Miller. Her loud, grating voice boomed through the speaker. "Oh, Susan is in the middle of doing Lily's hair. She's too busy to take calls right now." My mom suppressed her rage, keeping her voice as steady and cold as steel. "Mrs. Miller, that is a celebrity stylist my daughter booked and paid for. If she doesn't get to my daughter's house in 10 minutes, it will ruin the wedding timeline. If she doesn't show up, you will owe me the $100,000 non-refundable deposit. In cash. Today." Hearing the mention of money, Mrs. Miller instantly lost her smug attitude and got defensive. "Look, Ethan and Lily grew up together. They're like soulmates. Ethan was the one who insisted Susan style Lily first. We didn't ask for this. If you want your money, go ask Ethan. What does this have to do with me?" My mom hung up, her face pale. "They have no intention of letting Susan leave," Mom said quietly. Chloe paced the room, practically fuming. "I've been to dozens of weddings, and I have never, in my entire life, heard of someone hijacking the bride's stylist. This is psycho behavior." The clock on the wall kept ticking. Only 2.5 hours left until the guests started arriving at the venue. The photographer we hired, looking incredibly uncomfortable, cleared his throat. We really need to start the bridal prep photos soon, or we won't have enough time before the ceremony." The videographer also whispered, "Should we keep rolling, or?" I was so angry that I actually laughed out loud. I dug my nails into my palms. "Keep rolling," I told the videographer. "Record everything. I'm calling Ethan again." As soon as he picked up, I let out all my fury and heartbreak in one breath. "Ethan, I paid for Susan with my own money. This is my wedding. the most important day of my life. I am supposed to be the most beautiful version of myself today. You know how much this day means to me. Do you know your precious little sister is refusing to let Susan leave? Tell them to send her to my house right now, and maybe we can still save this wedding. For this wedding, I had spent an entire year planning every single detail. My wedding gown was a custom designer piece that took 6 months to hand-stitch. I hired a top-tier media team to document it. Even the guest favors took me weeks of comparing 10 different options to find the perfect ones. Ethan's voice came through, sounding exhaustingly calm. Okay, baby, please don't get worked up. I'm calling Lily right now to tell her to hurry up. Okay? Just give her a few more minutes. My voice cracked, tears finally spilling over. No. I want her here now. Do you understand me? Send Susan to my house this instant. Not a single minute later. Ethan let out a long, heavy sigh. Pearl, be reasonable. Lily is almost done. I'm doing the best I can, okay? A wave of utter powerlessness washed over me. I felt like I was screaming into a void. I slammed the phone down. Fat tears splashed onto the back of my hand. Because Lily was his little sister, Ethan always expected me to compromise. When we went out to dinner, I had to let Lily order first. When we went on trips, I had to let Lily choose the activities. But now, on my once-in-a-lifetime wedding day, I was expected to hand over my own stylist to her too. 7 years of a long-distance and local romance. This was the man I chose. And on the most important day of my life, in front of my best friends, my parents, and my relatives, he took my dignity and dragged it through the dirt. I finally broke down, sobbing against Serena's shoulder. Chloe and Serena started crying too, hugging me tightly and whispering that the bride shouldn't cry on her wedding day. My dad, who had been up all night helping with the wedding logistics, heard my crying. He dropped the customized welcome signs he was adjusting and ran into the room. Pearl, sweetheart, don't cry, Dad said, pulling me into a warm embrace. Daddy's here. No one is allowed to hurt my little girl. Just then, my mom's phone rang. It was Susan. Her voice sounded deeply confused over the speaker. Mrs. Vance? I've finished styling Miss Lily, but they won't let me leave. They're saying that since I'm already here, I should style Lily's mother as well. Your original contract only paid for 2 slots, you and your mother. Do you want me to give your slot to Mrs. Miller? No, my mom snapped instantly. Susan, please pack up your things and head to our address immediately. You are not to style anyone else. We are waiting for you. Understood, Susan replied. But she didn't hang up. She must have put her phone in her pocket because we could hear everything on speaker. We heard a commotion on her end, followed by Lily's soft, whiny voice. Ethan, really it's fine. Susan can go style Pearl now. I don't want her to be mad at me, but my mom practically raised you. She cares so much about your wedding, and she just wanted to look elegant and respectable for your big day. She was clearly talking to Ethan. Before I could hear his response, the call was abruptly disconnected. The news that Susan was finally on her way lifted the heavy tension in the room. My mom smoothed out the wrinkles on my bridal robe, trying to keep her composure as she took charge. Pearl, you wait for Susan. Chloe, Serena, I am so sorry, but I'm going to call a local salon right now to get 2 backup stylists here for you guys. Chloe immediately replied, Don't worry about us, Mrs. Vance. We're fine. Today is all about Pearl. We will make sure she looks like a queen, no matter what. Serena squeezed my shoulder reassuringly. My dad didn't say a word. He just clenched his fists, his eyes filled with pure heartache as he looked at me. My tears started falling again. He had named me Pearl because I was his most precious treasure. He had protected me and loved me for 27 years. I want everyone to know just by hearing her name. He used to say proudly to his friends that my daughter is the pearl of my eye, my little princess. But his little princess, who had never faced a day of cruelty in her life, was being humiliated on her wedding day by the man who was supposed to protect her. And yet, to save my reputation, my dad couldn't even make a scene right now. He had to swallow his anger and keep quiet. The clock ticked. Another 15 minutes passed. The sky outside was turning a pale gray. My mom's connections worked, and 2 local makeup artists arrived to start working on my bridesmaids. The suffocating atmosphere in the room finally began to soften. Then Ethan called again. One of my aunts, trying to lighten the mood, said, Answer it, sweetie. He's probably calling to apologize. Maybe Susan is almost here. I bit my lip, still holding onto a tiny sliver of hope, and answered, Pearl, baby, listen to me. Don't be mad. Susan is going to be late if she drives over to your place now, anyway. It makes more sense for her to just stay there and style Lily's mom. I've already booked a high-end local salon just 5 minutes from your house. They're sending someone over right now. It's much faster, and it won't delay the ceremony. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head. My ears rang so loudly, I could barely process his words. The chatter in the room died instantly. Everyone froze. Chloe and Serena immediately rushed to my side, supporting my arms. My voice was dead and hollow. Ethan, do you even want to marry me? Ethan's voice carried a hint of annoyance now. Pearl, of course I do. It's just a stylist. Anyone can do your makeup, it doesn't have to be Susan.
Be mature about this.
I'm just trying to solve the problem quickly so we can get married. I lost it. I screamed into the phone. Even now, you think this is just about a stylist? It's about my dignity. It's about them throwing my self-respect on the ground and stomping on it. It's my wedding. I paid for the stylist, but instead of styling the bride, you gave her to Lily. Who the hell are you marrying today, Ethan? Me or Lily? We've been together for 7 years. I let you give away everything else to her. But my own wedding? I have to give that away too. Hearing my hysterical, heartbroken screams, Ethan seemed to hesitate for a second. But then, he remembered what his mother had told him a week ago. Pearl's family has money, Ethan. If you don't show her who's boss before the wedding, she will control you for the rest of your life. You have to establish your authority. He hardened his heart. The ceremony starts in less than an hour. Pearl, you don't want our wedding to become a laughingstock, do you? Stop throwing a tantrum. Just get your makeup done by the local stylist. Once the wedding is over, I'll buy you whatever you want to make it up to you. I promise. My parents were now standing right beside me. My mom, who had run a multi-million-dollar business for decades, was a fierce, decisive woman who never let her emotions show on her face. But today, she had reached her limit. She quietly took my hand, squeezing it to comfort me. My dad's face was flushed with anger, veins bulging on his forehead. He snatched the phone from my hand and spoke into it with chilling, quiet rage.
Ethan.
Pearl is our only daughter. No one gets to humiliate her while I am still breathing. You dated my daughter for 7 years before reaching this step. We wanted this wedding to be a happy, smooth day. We don't blame you for having a different perspective. But I need to see one thing from you right now. Send the stylist to my house. Show me that you actually respect my daughter enough to marry her. There was a long, suffocating silence on the other end. Sir, let's think about the bigger picture first, Ethan stammered. Please help me convince Pearl to just get her makeup done. I'm on my way. The guests are already arriving at the venue. We can't let outsiders laugh at us. Once the ceremony is over, you can hit me, yell at me, whatever you want. I'll take full responsibility. Don't call me sir, and don't you dare call me dad, my father said, his voice dripping with disappointment. He hung up. I took my phone back and opened the Snapchat group chat with our wedding planners. Cancel the bridal prep photo shoot, I texted. The head planner replied almost instantly. What about the rest of the schedule? Are we proceeding with the ceremony? I thought about it for a second, then typed. Keep the videographer on standby. Pause everything else. I lifted my head and looked at my parents. Mom, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. My parents exchanged a look. My dad stepped forward, gently wiping the tears from my face. Don't be afraid, Pearl. I had heard those words for 27 years. As long as he was there, I knew I didn't have to fear anything in this world. I'm going to call your uncles and cousins. All of them. I was an only child, but my father had 3 brothers. After they had had about a dozen boys, I was born the only girl in the Vance family. I was the undisputed princess of the entire clan. My mom gave me a soft hug. Whatever you decide to do next, Pearl, your father and I are behind you 100%. She then turned to the local makeup artists. Could you please style my daughter? No need for an elaborate bridal look. Just make her look sharp, fresh, and elegant. Then she dialed Susan's number. Susan, it's fine. You don't need to come to our house anymore. And do not style anyone else at that house. We will pay your contract in full. Thank you. Chloe was quietly cursing Ethan under her breath, while Serena gently rubbed my back. My aunt, who had witnessed the entire drama, said fiercely, I'll go talk to our relatives. No one treats our girl like this. The videographer gave me an okay sign, indicating he had recorded every single second of the phone calls. Ethan tried calling me again and again, but I blocked his number. I took off my expensive silk bridal robe and changed into a simple, elegant white sundress. I sat in front of the vanity mirror, watching Ethan's texts pop up on my iPad. Baby, I'll be there in an hour and a half to pick you up. Be good. I let out a cold laugh. As the makeup artist's brushes moved across my face, a strange calm washed over me. The anxiety that had consumed me since finding out about the stylist vanished. My mind began to replay the last 7 years with Ethan like a movie. We met in college. He fell for me at first sight and pursued me relentlessly. He was tall, handsome, athletic, and popular. Being a year older than me, he had that charming senior aura. Naturally, I fell hard. For 4 years, we had a beautiful, sweet relationship. We studied together, traveled together, and loved each other deeply. But after I graduated and we moved back to the city to start our careers, Lily began to bleed into every corner of our lives. The makeup artist, a quiet woman named Mia, worked with practiced, gentle hands. She didn't ask questions. She had seen enough high-tension weddings to know when silence was the greatest service she could provide. As the cool touch of the foundation brush swept across my cheeks, I stared at my reflection. For 7 years, that face had smiled, compromised, and softened itself to fit into the spaces Ethan left behind. She only has me, Pearl. You have a loving family, a trust fund, and a safety net. Lily has nothing but her dance and me. How many times had I swallowed my own desires because of that single, manipulative refrain? When we celebrated our 5th anniversary at a cliffside restaurant I had booked 6 months in advance, Lily had called. She had a minor sprain during practice. Ethan left before the appetizers arrived, taking our rental car and leaving me to call an expensive cab in the pouring rain. When I confronted him, he had looked at me with that exact same exhausting disappointment. She was crying. Pearl, can't you be the bigger person just this once? Being the bigger person had become my prison. It was a golden cage built of my own patience, funded by my family's wealth, and guarded by Ethan's emotional hostage-taking. All done, Mia whispered, stepping back. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see a bride. I saw Pearl Vance. My skin was luminous, but not with the soft, blushing warmth of a woman about to pledge her life to a man. It was the sharp, cold clarity of ice. Mia had given me a subtle, winged eyeliner that made my eyes look piercing, and a deep, muted, berry lip that looked elegant rather than sweet. The simple white linen sundress clung to my frame with an effortless grace. I looked like I was going to a high-end summer gallery opening, not a chapel. You look stunning, Pearl, Serena murmured, her voice thick with unshed tears. Not like a victim, like a queen. I don't feel like a victim anymore, I said, my voice steady. The fever has finally broken. The door to the bridal suite opened, and the rooms suddenly felt smaller. It wasn't just my father who walked in. Behind him were my 3 uncles, Arthur, a senior partner at the city's most prestigious corporate law firm, Richard, who managed our family's commercial real estate empire, and Thomas, a retired military colonel who now ran a private security firm. Behind them stood my cousins, all 9 of them, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in sharp black suits. They looked less like wedding guests and more like a private army. My father, Robert Vance, looked at me. His eyes softened, but the muscles in his jaw were tight. The boys are here, Pearl, my father said quietly. Your uncle Arthur has already reviewed the wedding contracts. Your uncle Richard has contacted the venue management. We are ready. The question is, what do you want to do? I stood up, smoothing the front of my white dress. I want to go to the venue. Chloe gasped. Pearl, no. You're not actually going to marry him, are you? Of course not, I said, a cold, sharp smile playing on my lips. But if I cancel quietly, Ethan will spend the next 10 years telling everyone that I was a hysterical, spoiled rich girl who threw a tantrum over a makeup artist and ruined a 7-year relationship. He will paint Lily as the innocent victim of my jealousy. I am not letting him write the narrative of my pain. I turned to Julian, my eldest cousin, who was a brilliant software engineer and stylist. Julian, did you get the raw files from the videographer? Julian patted a sleek silver external hard drive in his breast pocket. Every second of the phone calls, the audio from Susan's pocket, and the texts you forwarded me. It's all formatted and ready for the main projectors. Good, I said. Uncle Richard, the Imperial Grand Ballroom is owned by one of your subsidiary companies, isn't it? My Uncle Richard smiled, a terrifyingly cold expression. The lease agreement for today's event is under my name, Pearl. Technically, I am the host of this venue today. The security staff, the catering, the technical crew, they all answer to me, not to the groom's family. Then let's go, I said, looking at my mother, who stood by the door, her eyes shining with fierce pride. Let's go show Ethan what happens when he tries to establish his authority over Vance. The Imperial Grand Ballroom was a masterpiece of opulence. Over 5,000 white roses, imported directly from Ecuador, cascaded from the arched entryways. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, glittering glow over the 200 guests who had already taken their seats. On the left side of the aisle sat my family's social circle, prominent business owners, local politicians, and high society friends my mother had cultivated over decades. On the right side sat Ethan's family, his childhood friends, and a small, select group of Lily's contemporary dance associates. Ethan stood near the altar, looking incredibly handsome in his custom-tailored charcoal tuxedo, a suit my father had paid for. He was checking his watch, a slight frown marring his features. Next to him stood his best man, and a few feet away, seated in the front row of the groom's side, were Lily Miller and her mother, Mrs. Miller. Lily looked radiant. Her hair was styled in an intricate, bohemian braid that cascaded over one shoulder, adorned with tiny, delicate pearls. Her makeup was flawless, highlighting her soft, deer-like eyes and pouty lips. It was unmistakably Susan's work. She wore a champagne-colored silk dress that was dangerously close to white, holding her national championship trophy in her lap. Like a prop, Mrs. Miller sat beside her, her hair coiffed into a stiff, towering updo, wearing a heavy diamond necklace that I recognized instantly. It was a vintage piece Ethan had borrowed from my jewelry box 3 weeks ago, claiming he wanted to get it professionally cleaned as a wedding surprise for me. My blood ran hot, but my mind remained perfectly cold. In the groom's holding room, Ethan's mother, Eleanor, was holding court. She was whispering to one of her sisters, her voice laced with smug satisfaction. "I told Ethan, you have to break a horse before you ride it," Eleanor whispered, unaware that my bridesmaid Chloe was standing just outside the half-open door, recording the audio on her phone. Pearl has always been too proud. She thinks her family's money makes her special. Once they're married, Ethan will control the trust fund, and she'll learn to sit down and be a quiet wife. Letting Lily use the stylist was the perfect way to show her where she stands. Chloe stepped back into the hallway, her face white with rage, and immediately sent the audio file to Julian. At exactly 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, the heavy oak doors of the ballroom opened. The chatter in the room died down as the guests turned to look. But instead of the soft, romantic strains of the harpist playing Canon in D, there was only silence. And instead of a bride draped in a 6-month hand-stitched, $50,000 lace gown with a 10-foot train, I walked in. I wore the simple white linen sundress. My hair was down, falling in soft waves over my shoulders. I carried no bouquet. No veil covered my face. Behind me walked my father, my mother, my 3 uncles, and my 9 cousins. We marched down the aisle not with the slow, tentative steps of a wedding procession, but with the steady, synchronized stride of a board of directors entering a hostile takeover meeting. Ethan's eyes widened in shock. He took a step forward, his hands twitching at his sides. "Pearl," he stammered, his voice echoing in the quiet hall. What are you wearing? Where is your dress? Why is everyone walking with you?" Lily stood up from her seat, her face a mask of sweet, innocent confusion. "Pearl, sweetie, did something happen to your gown? Oh, look at you, you didn't even get your hair done properly?" Mrs. Miller chimed in, her loud voice cutting through the silence. "Is this some kind of modern performance art? Ethan, what is your fiancé doing? This is highly irregular." I stopped 10 feet from the altar. My family fanned out behind me, forming a solid, imposing wall of black suits. My father stepped to my left, his arms crossed over his chest, his gaze locked onto Ethan with absolute disdain. "Ethan," I said, my voice calm, clear, and perfectly projected through the lapel. Mike Julian had clipped to my collar before we entered. "I asked you a question. On the phone earlier. I asked you who you were marrying today. Me or Lily?" Ethan's face flushed red. He looked around nervously at the guests who were already whispering furiously. "Pearl, stop this," Ethan hissed, lowering his voice as he tried to step closer. "To me." "What are you doing? There are business partners here. My boss from the firm is in the 3rd row. Have you lost your mind? We can talk about the stylist later. Just go change into your dress, and let's get through the vows." "The stylist?" I let out a soft, melodic laugh that chilled the room. "You still think this is about a makeup artist, Ethan? You really are as dense as you are selfish." I turned my head slightly and nodded toward the tech booth at the back of the hall. "Julian, play it." The massive, state-of-the-art LED screens that flanked the altar, which were supposed to display a romantic montage of our college photos, flickered. Suddenly, the audio system rumbled to life. It wasn't music. It was the sharp, clear recording of a phone call. "I'm so sorry, Pearl. Mr. Vance called and told me to style Miss Lily Miller first." The guests gasped. Ethan's boss, Mr. Harrison, a man who prided himself on corporate ethics and who had only hired Ethan because of my father's recommendation, leaned forward, his brow furrowing. Then came my voice. "The ceremony starts in less than 2 hours, Ethan. How is anyone going to make it here on time through the morning traffic?" And Ethan's dismissive, sighing response bounced off the high ceilings of the ballroom. "Can't you just do your own makeup? You're great at it. And honestly, baby, you're the most beautiful girl in the world to me, even without any makeup." The crowd began to murmur. Several of my mother's friends turned to look at Lily, who was slowly turning pale. But the video didn't stop there. The screen shifted to a split-screen display. On the left was the text message history from my iPad, showing Ethan's manipulative texts. "Stop throwing a tantrum. Just get your makeup done by the local stylist. Once the wedding is over, I'll buy you whatever you want to make it up to you." On the right side of the screen, a video began to play. It was the raw footage, captured by our videographer's secondary camera, which had been rolling in the bridal suite. It played the audio from Susan's phone when she had put it in her pocket. Lily's soft, whiny voice echoed through the ballroom. "Ethan, really, it's fine. Susan can go style Pearl now. I don't want her to be mad at me, but my mom practically raised you. She cares so much about your wedding, and she just wanted to look elegant and respectable for your big day." And then a new audio clip played. It was the recording Chloe had captured just 10 minutes ago outside the groom's holding room. Eleanor Vance's voice, sharp and malicious. "I told Ethan you have to break a horse before you ride it. Once they're married, Ethan will control the trust fund, and she'll learn to sit down and be a quiet wife." Letting Lily use the stylist was the perfect way to show her where she stands. The ballroom erupted into absolute chaos. My mother's friends were openly gasping, some covering their mouths in horror. My father's business associates looked at Ethan with utter disgust. "Turn it off. Turn that damn thing off." Eleanor Vance shrieked, running out of the holding room, her face purple with rage. "Who allowed this? Security, get these people out of here. Shut down the projectors." But the security guards, hired by my Uncle Thomas's firm, stood like statues, their arms crossed, completely ignoring her. "I'm afraid the security answers to me today, Eleanor," my Uncle Richard said, smoothly stepping forward. "And the venue belongs to my company. The projectors will turn off when my niece says they turn off." Ethan was shaking. He looked at the screen, then at his boss, then at me. The carefully constructed facade of the charming, loving, self-made young professional was crumbling in real time. Pearl, please," Ethan begged, his voice cracking. He reached out to grab my hand, but my cousin Marcus instantly stepped between us, his massive frame completely blocking Ethan from getting near me. "Don't touch her," Marcus said, his voice a low, warning growl. Lily was crying now, real tears of humiliation streaming down her perfectly styled face. "Pearl, how could you do this? Today was supposed to be my championship celebration too. You've ruined everything. You're just jealous. Because Ethan cares about me. Jealous." I stepped around Marcus, looking down at Lily from the steps of the altar. "Lily, you're welcome to him. In fact, you can have him with my blessing. Because as of this moment, he is unemployed, deeply in debt, and socially ruined." Ethan froze. What do you mean, unemployed?" Mr. Harrison, Ethan's boss, stood up from the third row. He adjusted his suit jacket, his face cold and expressionless. "Vance," Mr. Harrison said, his voice carrying easily across the silent room. "Our firm does not employ partners who exhibit such astonishingly low moral character and financial manipulation. Your behavior today is a liability to our reputation. Do not bother coming into the office on Monday. Your personal items will be couriered to your mother's house." "Mr. Harrison, please," Ethan cried, taking a step toward him. "It was a family dispute. It has nothing to do with my work." "It has everything to do with your character, Ethan," Mr. Harrison replied, coldly, before turning to my father. "Robert, I am deeply sorry for this. My wife and I will take our leave." As Mr. Harrison and his wife walked out, several other high-profile guests stood Up and follow them. The exodus had begun. And as for the debt, I continued, pulling a sleek leather folder from my bridesmaid Serena's hands. I opened it and pulled out a single sheet of paper. This is the itemized invoice for today's wedding, I said, handing it to my Uncle Arthur. Arthur adjusted his reading glasses and read the numbers aloud. The venue rental, $85,000. The catering for 200 guests, $42,000. The floral arrangements, $50,000. The media and production team, $30,000. And finally, the non-refundable deposit for the celebrity stylist, Susan, $100,000. Arthur looked up, his eyes cold behind his spectacles. The total cost of this event is $307,000. Since the contract was signed by both parties, but funded entirely by the Vance family trust under the assumption of a good faith marriage, and since the groom's party actively sabotaged the event and breached the emotional and financial terms of our agreement, we are filing a formal lawsuit for financial damages and emotional distress. Ethan's mother, Eleanor, looked like she was about to faint. $300,000? We don't have that kind of money. Ethan's salary was supposed to pay for our new house. Ethan doesn't have a salary anymore, I said softly. I looked at Ethan, who was staring at me as if he were seeing me for the first time. The quiet, submissive girl who had spent 7 years waiting for him to notice her, who had practically begged him for this wedding, was gone. In her place stood a woman who could crush him with a single phone call. And Mrs. Miller, I said, turning my gaze to Lily's mother, who was trying to hide her neck behind her purse. The diamond necklace you are wearing belongs to my late grandmother. It was passed down to me on my 21st birthday. Ethan stole it from my safe 3 weeks ago. Mrs. Miller gasped, her hand flying to her throat. He said it was a gift. He said he bought it for me to wear to the wedding. He stole it, I said. And if you do not take it off and hand it to my cousin Leo in the next 10 seconds, my Uncle Thomas will have his security officers detain you for grand theft until the police arrive. With trembling, frantic fingers, Mrs. Miller tore the necklace from her neck, nearly breaking the clasp, and shoved it into Leo's open hand. Ethan, Lily sobbed, grabbing Ethan's arm. Do something. Tell them they can't do this to us. We're the Millers. We've known you your whole life. But Ethan couldn't do anything. He looked around the ballroom. His friends were looking away in embarrassment. His mother was weeping on the floor. His career was gone. His reputation in the city's business community was ashes. He looked at me, his eyes begging for mercy. Pearl, 7 years, he whispered, his voice trembling. Doesn't 7 years mean anything to you? I made a mistake. I was stupid. I let my mother and Lily get into my head. But I love you. Please don't do this to me. I walked up to him, stopping just inches away. I looked into the eyes of the man I had loved since I was 20 years old. I looked for the heartbreak, the longing, the familiar warmth. There was nothing, just empty space. 7 years, Ethan, I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet carrying the weight of a decade's worth of tears. I gave you my youth, my patience, and my unconditional love, and you thought it made me weak. I reached up, took his hand, and placed the small titanium wedding band he had bought for me, the only thing he had actually paid for, into his palm. It didn't make me weak, I said. It just took me 7 years to realize how much more I am worth. I turned my back on him. The ceremony is cancelled, I announced to the remaining guests, but the catering and the bar are fully paid for. To my family, my friends, and everyone who has supported me, please enjoy the champagne. Today is not a wedding. Today is my celebration of freedom. A stunned silence hung over the room for a beat. Then my cousin Marcus let out a loud, ringing laugh, followed by Chloe and Serena clapping. Slowly the applause built, starting from my family's side and spreading until the entire left side of the ballroom was cheering. 3 months later, the afternoon sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of a chic, minimalist cafe overlooking the harbor. The air was crisp, carrying the salty tang of the autumn sea. I sat at a corner table, sipping a hot matcha latte. On the table lay a copy of the Morning Business Journal. On page 4, a small headline caught my eye. Local consulting firm files for bankruptcy following partner scandal. The article detailed the collapse of the small financial consulting firm Ethan had tried to join after being fired by Mr. Harrison. Without my father's backing, And with his reputation tarnished by the viral video of our cancelled wedding, which Julian had quietly leaked to a local lifestyle blog, no one in the city wanted to do business with him. Ethan had tried to call me from dozens of different numbers, but my security team had blocked every single one. From what Chloe told me, he had moved back into his mother's cramped two-bedroom apartment, his custom suit sold to pay off a portion of the legal fees my Uncle Arthur was relentlessly pursuing. As for Lily, her national championship victory had been completely overshadowed by the public backlash. The Contemporary Dance Association had quietly distanced itself from her after a video of her mother holding my grandmother's stolen necklace went viral on TikTok. Her sponsors had pulled out, leaving her with a shiny trophy and no career. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from my father. "The yacht is ready for the Mediterranean trip, Pearl. Your mother and the boys are already packing. When are you arriving at the marina?" I smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached my eyes. "Right now," I typed back. I closed the journal, stood up, and pulled a soft cashmere trench coat over my shoulders. As I walked out of the cafe and into the bright autumn sunlight, the wind caught my hair. For 7 years, I had felt like a passenger in my own life, constantly adjusting my course to avoid Ethan's storms. But as I stepped toward the harbor, looking out at the endless blue horizon, I realized something beautiful. The storm was over, and I was finally the one holding the wheel.